Voter education, that's what this program opens with today. And as you have seen, Mike Igini joins us this morning. He is former INEC resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ayo and Bukola, for having me. And of course, Chamberlain and Mark in Abuja. Good morning.
Let's start with this hue and cry that we've been hearing over beavers. Some people saying that some people are trying to stop the use of the beavers and all of that. Meanwhile, the law is clear on whether or not, who has the authority to decide how the elections will be conducted. The law is clear about the fact that, look, it is whatever INEC says or whichever process INEC decides will be used, that will be used, including electronic means. So is there any significance to the hue and cry?
Well, thank you very much. As I said in our last engagement here, that the area I want to contribute as a citizen, using my office of the citizen, like all Nigerians, is to help to educate Nigerians a whole lot of things that they need to know, particularly the fact that at the moment, the collective efforts of all Nigerians that led to the passage of the 2022 Act by the National Assembly that I have commended over and over again, and again this morning I commend National Assembly, as well as Mr. President for signing that into an act. It's what is giving us hope for the 2023 election, because what gives spice and piquancy to the practice of democracy is participation. And for you to participate in an environment of where we have high level of poverty and the standard of living is low, where level of awareness is not as high, it is important that we provide information for Nigerian people, because information is knowledge and knowledge is power. And more importantly, the fact that, the greatest promise of democracy is participation. Now, as you noted, in the entire Federal Republic of Nigeria, apart from institutions that are called upon to assist INEC, other agencies, the Independent National Electoral Commission, where I had worked for 10 years, remains the only institution, to the exclusion of any other, that is empowered to organize, undertake, and supervise the election in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In fact, I think the starting point is for all to recognize that Section 160 of the Constitution of the Fatherland stated clearly that of all the executive bodies that are established under Section 153 of the Constitution, that with respect to the Independent National Electoral Commission, its powers to make rules, regulate its own procedure, shall not be subject to the control or direction of even any person who is holding the office of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is there in the Constitution. Furthermore, drilling down to the question about the beavers and all of that, the Electoral Act itself, which is now the chief priest helping to interpret what the oracle itself have said, which is the oracle, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the uncommanded commander, stated that INEC has that power. Now, the good news to Nigerians is that under the law, Section 47 had made it very clear. In fact, Section 50 says it granted to support Section 160 the operational independence of INEC. Therefore, by virtue of the provision I've referenced, particularly Section 47 of the 2022 Electoral Act, it stated clearly that Independent National Electoral Commission shall deploy the use of either the beavers or any technological device that should be used for, one, to verify, to confirm, and to authenticate any voter on election day. The beauty of this section is that it has helped this country to cure the mischief that have been going on since 2002 Electoral Act. Section 40 of the 2002 Electoral Act, Section 49 of the now repealed 2010 Act had been used by politicians to rig election in connivance with some of our corrupt, compromised pool officials. For a period of 17 years, this has been the problem we are having with Section 1, Section 40 of 2002 Electoral Act, and Section 49 to the effect that once a voter comes to a presiding officer, upon being satisfied, underline, satisfied that is the true person, he will issue him a ballot paper. This is what I've been using to regulate. How? I'm sure recently you've been reading or hearing that they are dumping PVC in so many places in the country right now. Do you know the reason why they are dumping PVC? They are now dumping the PVC because of the fact that Section 47 had now cured this Section 49 that had been used before. Because under the current situation, all those who have warehouse INEC PVC, deprived Nigerians of those PVC, they cannot use them anymore.
When you say some who are sorry, Bukola, warehousing the cards, where did they get the cards from? Isn't it from INEC?
Good. It is on record. Check your record. That when in 2011, by way of historical memory, to recall that with the introduction of the biometric register, which now makes it for the first time in the history of the country since 2011, that a Nigerian, you register once in your lifetime. At best, if you are moving from one domicile to another, what is required is to do transfer. Now, the moment the PVC now came on board, because that Section 49 was still the law, so people broke into INEC offices across the country. Remember that at the inception of the PVC, the use of PVC, we are no longer using, I would have brought some of the specimen since in 1999, when we're using ordinary papers card. Politicians will either connive with our INEC staff in the past or break into the offices. Recall that in January 2014, when I was now deployed to Edo State, I addressed stakeholders that, look, all those who broke into INEC office in Edo State, just as it happened even in Cross River, where I was deployed to Edo State, that, look, those PVC returned them. So the question you ask, how did they get those PVC? They burgled INEC offices in various parts of the country and collected those PVC. But we will be calling for this since that period, since the 2022 Act, where you now have Section 47 that has put an end to issue about people, warehousing PVC, buying PVC.
I wanted to add to that.
So all of that, because today, people must take note of the following, that when they get to the polling unit, no more incident form anymore. You can no longer talk about what they call manual accreditation. But what we have now is what they call the bimodal process.
So essentially, the system is now fail-safe to the extent that those who are trying to, well, according to reports, who are trying to circumvent the process, using the suit against the Beavers and the conspiracy to sack the INEC boss, it's an exercise in futility. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. And I think that, we need to, that's the reason why I said this continuing education is very important. Because law acts as an enabler and as a constraint. And I can see a high level of debilitating ignorance on the part of our elites, many of whom who have no philosophical insight to what we are doing. That somebody, in fact, I will ask elsewhere, is it possible for that in the face of the law, Section 160, Section 47 of the current act, that an order could be given to stop the use of beavers? And I said, if you are asking that question, then it means that you have no sense of history. A judge, a corrupt judge, that would be the most dangerous to our society could do that. Because it has happened before.
Sorry, just a second.
Yes.
Bukola's question, I think, is very specific.
Yes.
Just a second. She's asking that, is it possible for a judge or a court of law to outlaw beavers for this election?
It will be contrary to public policy, and totally it will lead to a widespread disruption of public life.
No, I'm
going there. I am going there.
Constitution
I am going
that
there.
you quoted and the law.
That's what, against the background of this law, it will be contrary to public policy. It will be wrong. It will lead to widespread disruption for a judge to do so. But is it impossible? It is not impossible.
If the law, if that order is given, going by what the Constitution and the law says, should it be obeyed?
Good. No matter how wrong an order from a court, even from a magistrate, may be, the tradition, as you've heard INEC all the time, is to obey but take steps to set it aside. This is the danger we are going to face with. Because remember, the Babangida administration, from when they had several shifts of the timetable of the period of handover, in order to assure Nigerians that indeed June 12th fixed for election was real, a decree was promulgated to the effect that no court in the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall stop the holding of election. That was given as an assurance to Nigerian people and to the entire international community. But on the eve of June 12th, a lawyer like myself, a lawyer sitting as a judge, Justice Ikpeme, I understand it's late now, sat in the night and gave an order that June 12th election should not hold. That was where the problem of 1993 June 12th election started. When that happened, other people went to another court to get another order. Different orders were being issued from different courts. On the 23rd of June, 1993, the military regime, relying on the situation that had been created deliberately, said they were annulling that election using even an unsigned press release to avoid what they call judicial anarchy. That was what was said. Recall that at the moment, if not too long ago, you heard elite who accused themselves of having some order they kept in their pocket and all of that. People can go to their villages now to go and get an order, ex parte order. So to say, and that's why my worry is my constituency, the judiciary. Because Alexis de Tocqueville, when he was talking about, when he wrote glowingly about democracy in America, he made the point, and we all know this today, that in the United States of America, the greatest strength of the American democracy is because of the judiciary. Will our colleagues in the judiciary stand tall and mighty in
and not
defense
be
of democracy, and you are not to be an instrument
in the hands of
to
politicians.
bring a widespread disruption of public life? Because I can just imagine
Mr.
what will happen.
Mr. Igini, should we be worried? I mean, this document, about this suit against the Beavers is available online, and we had, some politicians also coming to express worry that some state governments are trying to, remove the INEC boss, surreptitiously. So should we be worried?
Look, I think we should have on the screen what we call the election day pyramid. Who is in charge of election in Nigeria? We need to have it so that Nigeria can see that the unnecessary call to poison them, to create an atmosphere that is the pyramid of election day. Now, if you look at the top of every pyramid, the top is always very narrow. The first one showing red, that is the headquarters where you have the chairman and the entire national commissioners, directors in Abuja. The second is the state where you have the resident electoral commissioners. The third is the local government in Nigeria, 774. Now, from all the other columns you are seeing down, who are the people? They are not called INEC staff. How many people realize that the INEC chairman, the national commissioner, the directors, the state, and the EO, on election day, they cannot append a signature. They cannot issue a ballot paper. They cannot stamp and sign a ballot paper on election day. So what this pyramid shows to you is that from the supervisory presiding officer, where for the purpose of having enough staff, we are going to get maybe staff from after INEC staff, we are going to get people from federal agencies and all of that, down to the polling unit. They are Nigerians. That shows to you that the pyramid of values, that the outcome of election, success or failure, is a reflection of the collective value of a people. Therefore, talking about INEC chairman who cannot sign a document on that day, calling on the resignation or a rep who cannot sign a document on election day is totally misconceived, unnecessary distraction of what we need to do. I think that what we should be focusing on is that, like I said elsewhere, that look, if you look at the Holy Book, both in the Bible, Matthew chapter 24, or you look at the version of it in the Quran, you see, I want to reverse part of what Jesus Christ said at Mount Olive, to the fact that when the end time is come, you will see some sign. 2023 will mark a watershed in the history of election conduct in our country, because INEC had developed quite a number of tools unknown to people. How many people know that INEC does tracking, that we do tracking? And as I speak to you, following the signing into an act on the 25th of February this year, the INEC went to office on Saturday. It was signed, president signed on a Friday, 25th. By 26th, INEC went to office across the country, revising, changing everything to reflect the current electoral act. But the politicians out there, we are doing so much reform, but there's no change of attitude to complement what INEC is doing. That is why, many politicians you are seeing today, they are going to experience what they call the dinosaur experience in 2023.
When you say, INEC is tracking elections,
yes,
please explain.
Now, INEC has developed what they call the Election Monitoring and Support Center that is based in Abuja. And it has 36 secretariats across the country. We call it the EMSC, Election Monitoring and Support Center. That support center has some basic tools that gives INEC what we call 360-degree visibility of what happened across the country. Now, at the secretariat in each state of the federation, now because the EMSC is to manage the election management system, the EMS. And in that is one of the two, you now have what they call the election risk management system that gives INEC early warning information about what is happening across the country. Then you have the one I want to talk about that should be shown on the slide here, is the EOSC, the Election Operations Support Center. This is, in fact, the most critical one indeed. That is to say, by tracking, if you can have it on the slide for Nigerians to see, so that Nigerians go and collect your PVC. Forget all the things you are hearing about. 2023 is going to be about your will. It's going to be about you. It's no longer about somebody losing election at the polling unit. Then suddenly becomes a winner at the work collation center or any of the collation centers. Now, first, okay, that is done. Let's go to let's go to the tracking system. You are going to see that in INEC office, all right, that is not, we'll come to that. There's another infographic there that you are going to see. Now, the tracking system is this. You have a team. For example, Akwa Ibom has 31 local governments. On the eve of election, that operation will be set up. When it is set up, they will track the movement of the materials from the central bank, where initial material will be kept, down to the INEC state office. At the INEC state office, the material will now be moved to the local government for batching. At that point, while I was seated in my office, with the team, we have the conference room, which is what you call the tracking room, where you'll be tracking the entire, we'll be tracking the entire 31 local government of Akwa Ibom State. You have the tracking team there. Now, what do? As the materials move from the state to the local government, from the local government to the rack centers, from rack centers to the polling unit in the wheel hour, up to the time of opening of the poll in the morning, down to reverse logistics by the closing of the poll. This team of trackers
Are you saying that this tracker can also track officials while they're in transit moving the materials?
Of course, because materials don't move alone. Materials are moved by the pool officials.
Are they devices connected to the officials or to the materials?
There are people who are given equipment. They have their telephone, they have every gadget with them. They move with the materials. So they will be giving the feedback, all right, to the state. Okay, this is a typical polling unit setting. But the tracking, let's get the tracking right. The Electoral Operations Support Center. For example, to make it more graphic, on the eve of that election, there were some politicians who were harvesting, arresting, hijacking materials from one rack center to the other. At about 12:30 midnight, I got the number of some of those involved, and I placed a call. I mean, you will have read in social media when some people said that Igini is using magic. There is no magic. What is basically being done was the tracking system that was ongoing. So we tracked everything. At the time of opening of the poll, it will be tracked, all right? At the time of when the poll have ended, it will be tracked. Now, when I sit in the office, they will be printing that for me, quarterly, hourly. It was led by one Ngozi, who came from Abuja, and you have all that in 36 states. So the idea here is that politicians go and study the current 2023 Act. The game is up. The game is up. What they should do now is to go and get no less than 186,466 party agents. Because under the current Act, Section 43, all the political parties, all those who are contesting election, House of Assembly, State of Assembly, Federal House, Senatorial. For example, let's take a presidential election. We now have a total from the initial 199,973 polling unit with the additional creation of a polling unit after 25 years to create more access for Nigerians. The commission now have a total of 176,846 polling units. For each of the polling units, a political party or candidate, you need an agent. So primarily, at the level of the polling unit, you need 176,846.
Sorry, Bukola. Speak to this polling unit setup that came on screen just a little while ago. Right. Exactly what does it mean, and what are the things that Nigerians should be, should be looking at?
Very, very quickly to just wrap it up, you need that numbers. At the Work Collection Center, you need 8,809 agents. At the local government, you need 774 agents. Then of course, at the state level, you need for presidential, you need 37. Now, this is the typical polling unit setup on that day. So This data I just provided, what the party need to do now. Now, if you look from your left-hand side, you are going to see the security person, somebody showing that it's a security. Now, the APO3, Assistant, what do you call it, Presiding Officer 3, all right, is the what you call the queue controller. He will be there, or she will be there. So if you look at those who have lined up, you have to show your PVC to him or her. Now, every permanent voter's card is coded according to where you register. Now, if he looks at the PVC and he finds out that you are not in the right polling unit, you'll be directed to move to another place because that's not your proper polling unit. But anybody who is supposed to be in that polling unit from the arrow you are seeing, he will now proceed to the next presiding officer there, who will now, they can burden it and all that. That's the next person who, okay.
Keep going.
All right? He will go to that particular APO, all right? From there, they will check the register. It will now ask to go to the next one that will now put apply the ink to the cortical. Thereafter, he goes to the pool manager, which is the presiding officer himself, who, by virtue of section 71 of the Act, must issue the ballot to the potential voter. He must stamp and sign. This is very important. He must stamp and sign. That is a statutory requirement of that presiding officer. After doing that, he goes straight to the cubicle. Now, you will find 3 people be facing the presiding officer, the pool officials there. You have the observer, officially accredited observer that will be there. You also now have the party agent. We just have only 2 indicated there now. All right, party agent in that, looking at what is going on. In fact, in Ghana, in some other countries, they will also have what you call a kind of a board showing that as the presiding officer is admitting those who have been duly given a ballot paper, they will also be doing that recording together. It's a collective responsibility at that stage.
Very quickly, I want you to speak to the positioning of the ballot box,
Correct.
which is also always a subject of controversy during elections.
Yes.
You said before the program started that it's an administrative decision by INEC.
Correct.
But what should be done differently now, such that it will be transparent?
What should be done differently now is that you see the arrow showing to the cubicle where somebody, the arrow showing the cubicle where somebody is going to make a choice of who he or she wants to be. Now, if you look at the party agents here that we are seeing here, they are likely, beyond what you find here, they are likely to see what he or she is doing there.
In the ballot box.
In the ballot,
at the cubicle, at the polling unit and all that. And the possibility of trying to show like this is there. So now the box, I do also have a box there. There will now be a box. The box now will be facing the poll agent. It's only the security personnel. I mean, you've read a report about the possibility of deploying some undercover agent. The police officer there will not be looking straight at the box, but will not be seeing what he or she is doing. This is actually, so after he or she has made that choice, which is what Nigerians have also contributed by what you call, in abroad, in other part of the country, you just at that place, the box is already there with you. But in Nigeria, we are not too trusting of who is going to that very place. He could be having some other ballot paper in his pocket. So the idea is that we are now doing what we call a remodified secret ballot system. So when you have done that, you fold the ballot paper. You now come out and make it open so everybody can see the ballot box is there. Everybody. And in any case, every result and every election, you know, is colored. The ballot paper, they are colored differently.
Differently for Senate, differently for House of Reps.
House of
Assembly,
governorship,
and all of that.
Well,
that is the way the polling, what should happen there. And of course, quickly, the agent, they have a right under section 61 of the Act, you know, to ensure that in the course of sorting and counting, All these type of abracadabra you see in their so-called primary, where somebody will say 5, 8, 17, and all of that. Of course, it's not a very common thing with our system. But a presiding, a party agent, all right, has a right to mount a recount. But quickly, to just add to that, please take note. In this 2023 and previously, a deputy governor, anybody holding a public office now, cannot be a party agent under the law.
Okay, well, there is more of that. Where that came from, there's too much of the education. But we're going to have to continue this when we return from this break. And of course, our colleagues in Abuja would want to wait in. Stay with us. Our conversation continues with Mike Igini, who is a former INEC resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom State. Let's continue this conversation with our colleagues in Abuja. Guys.
Yes, thank you, Ayo. Mr. Igini, now with all of these reforms, can any of these reforms, or maybe a combination of these reforms, is it going to bring about behavioral change on the part of politicians from your perspective?
Thank you very much. A society makes progress on the basis of sanction and reward. And for a successful election, as I've said over and again, it requires the cooperation of all stakeholders. It is actually our expectation that, and that is why some of the tools that have been developed are such that it will be difficult, if not impossible, for politicians to have their way going forward. And again, I want to thank the National Assembly and the President for signing this, making this happen. Because as I also noted, you will have found that today, one of the shenanigans of politicians before, which has already been taken care of, you go and look at Section 137 of the current Act. You will find that even after election, Chamberlain, you'll find that it's no longer possible for people to say at the tribunal they want to bring 300 witnesses just to frustrate the case. Today, under the current Act, there will be no requirement for such oral testimony anymore. Because INEC electoral process, every document you find in INEC, they are coded. They are coded according to the purpose for which they are meant to be served. And that's why I keep telling you that there's a particular provision which is a shield to the entire process, and it's also a sword against those who want to do. And I will never mention it. And that's why I also told people who try to say, look, it's only when you want to rig election that you should be bothering to know that particular provision. Because that provision is to protect the vote of Nigerian people. At the appropriate time, we should talk about it. So, in terms of the behavior of the political class, the greatest tragedy in our country, Chamberlain, is that whereas so much innovations have been carried out to change the trajectory of our election, to take the poetry of our election from the rubric of pain, violence, and frustration, this has not been complemented by a change of behavior on the part of the political class. So, but for us, you know, the law becomes a very powerful instrument that we must use to change the situation. To expect that a donkey will get rid of his large ear by shaking his head vigorously will be under grand illusion. And that is why people whose action, conduct tend to undermine the process must be brought to book. As you saw yesterday when a professor fainted in Akwa Ibom, who was involved in generating and publishing false results, unknown to him that the tracking system was real and it was ongoing. And we tracked everything. And that is what has happened to him. And that's what also led to the conviction of Professor Peter Ogban for 3 years imprisonment. So the reforms are there. And the beauty, again, I thank the National Assembly, and I must thank Mr. President really for signing this to make it this happen, because in 2023, the will of the people of this country will count. the will of the people is what is going to happen in 2023. Nothing anybody can do. And that is why one of the things, which is why we decided to have this undertaking. I thank National Channel Television and other platforms that have made themselves available for Nigerians to be educated on this part. It will let Nigerians know that power has been taken back to you, as we have seen with the election day pyramid. I mean, look at all the youths who are saying, oh, it's their time and so on and so forth. Now, let us know. We want to see whether you will not betray this time around, because at the level of the 176,846 polling unit, they are going to be young undergraduates who are currently in the youth service. They will be the one that will man the entire polling unit of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But what is more important in all of this is that when I made the point the other time, that talking about the tracking, I'm sure you will have had that slide now for the tracking to show, is that Bukola Chamberlain, the era of somebody losing or losing an election at a polling unit and it subsequently becomes a winner at the War Coalition Center, it's all over. It's all over, and it's for good. What is required?
Mr. Igini?
Yes.
If I may interrupt here, when you said that, that the will of Nigerians will count in 2023, I was saying an amen to that as you were speaking. But looking at what we currently have on the ground, just a few days ago, or 2 days ago, thereabouts ago, the INEC chairman was raising concerns about the current fouling up of the political environment. We've seen some marked intolerance on the part of those who are, will I say, campaigning. And this is in spite of attempts by the Peace Committee, which has now come to stay, to try and foster an atmosphere of peace, an atmosphere of fair play and conviviality. Will I say, as we proceed to the 2023 elections. For you, how important is this? I mean, the INEC chairman has already raised concerns about it. Is there anything that INEC can be doing to ensure that political parties are more tolerant? Or would you say that maybe we, the people ourselves, have a great role to play in this?
Mark, thank you very much. Election period is a moment when the citizens' commitment to the ideal of that state is actually determined, particularly state institutions. The tragedy of our country is that very many who have roadside values have been brought into the democratic process. They have no respect for the rule of law. Ours has become a case of the far corner no longer listen to the far corner. On the part of INEC, what the Commission should continue to do, as it's already doing, is to make sure that every inch of the process is not violated. Because the politicians we are talking about, look at what they are doing, despite the law. And that's why I said that, look, good laws, even procedures, as robust as they may be, are not self-executory. They are not self-implementing. It will require a collective effort to do so. As a matter of fact, of all the six stakeholders I've identified over time, 3 are very important here. One, the election management body, the EMB, INEC. Number 2, you have the judiciary. And number 3, security. These are the trinity of this institution I mentioned will change the trajectory. Now, look at what is going on. The disruption of either rallies, depriving people the use of civic centers across the country. There's already a growing level of intolerance, despite the provision of Section 91, subsection 4 of the 2022 Electoral Act. We stated clearly that no candidate or political party shall be prevented from holding rallies or procession during this window that has been granted by the law, now from 90 days of campaign to, as you could see there, so that it is not me speaking. That is the law there. No registered political party in Nigeria, its aspirant or candidate shall be prevented from holding rallies, procession, meeting at any time for the constitutional political purposes, and the police shall, in consultative manner, resolve any conflict of time and venue.
Please explain consultative.
Yes. There was a report somewhere, either in the Zamfara, one of the states at the moment, where there was an argument about the use of venue. The import of that section is to the effect that if Party A had applied for the use of a venue, Party A may not be the ruling party at the state level or at the national level. But thereafter, the ruling party, either at the state level or at the national level, will have made an application, all right? The principle of first in time should take priority. Okay. Therefore, when there's a conflict, the Nigerian police is now expected to weigh in on the basis of this. But more important is that what we must appreciate is that sometimes we are so conscious of our power that we want to exercise it. But if you look at section 91, subsection 3 of the current act, unlike even some other countries where during the election period, the entire security policing is given to the election management body for the control and direction, completely without direction from any other authority. But in Nigeria, to ensure that there's sanity toward that election, that section I refer to say that the police acts, the public order acts, any other law in Nigeria, for the time being, shall be in abeyance.
Well,
and that the duty of the police shall now be limited. That is the word underline. Shall be limited to providing security. Well, but you will find that in many places, it is the police that running to go and find out what happened.
But then, as you said, even though the law, some laws are in abeyance, but they still have to do their jobs. Yes. Because sometimes there is a very, blurred lines between criminality and some of these things. Correct. But, so many other issues to raise with you, but right now we have to put a pause on it and look for another time. There's always a lot to talk about when you come.
I was about to start another talking
that's another program altogether. Mike Igini, former INEC resident electoral commissioner, Akwa Ibom State, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to another session with you on it. Well, still talking elections and politics towards 2023. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.